Hi everyone, I am Brian. I'm a campus recruiter with CDW based out of our Chicago office. I'm here today to share a few tips for you guys on how to navigate your internship and job search during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm excited to get started and hopefully you guys enjoy. All right, so first question here today is surrounding how to stand out during your internship or job search during this time. I think two major things come to mind for me specifically. One would be your resume and your cover letter. We want to make sure those documents are as clean and concise as they can be, so your format's lined up, spacing's the same, size is the same, so on and so forth. But in addition to that, to make your profile stand out, I also recommend doing some research on the company, reviewing the description, and correlating your document to that. As an employer, it is easy to tell when you are reading something that has been sent to maybe us and 10 other companies. So to make yourself more of a distinct candidate, incorporating some of the language that is used on the website or in the job description, I think does go a little bit further for a recruiter. In addition to that, another thing that comes to mind is social media. We want to ensure that our social media profiles are on brand and are showcasing what we would like to show. With that being said, LinkedIn is a huge way to look for positions. I would always recommend ensuring that that is up to date. I know that LinkedIn does offer some tips on how to amplify your profile. You want to think of this as a summary of your resume, so a little bit shorter, and then if a recruiter is interested, they're able to reach out to you and get some more clarification on the experience you have listed. But for platforms like Instagram and Twitter, we want to ensure that those are on brand as well. You don't want an employer to scroll past your profile and see something that could potentially damage your chances of being hired. So if your profile is not on brand and does not have positive content, I would recommend placing that profile on private during your job search. Okay, next question that I got is, what advice would you provide to someone who is currently in their job search? The first piece of advice that I would provide is to remain calm and patient. I know that there is a lot going on right now. I'm sure there is a lot of stress and pressure on you, but please know that as employers, we are doing everything that we can to ensure that we are getting talent like yourself into the organization. So please do bear with us during this time. The next piece of advice that I have for you is to leverage relationships and connections that you have already established, whether that is with a mentor, a professor, maybe it's a different faculty member. A lot of times these individuals are pretty connected in the community and are more than happy to make introductions to an individual or an employer that you might be interested in, which could help further your job search. The last thing that I would think of would be to think of your job search similarly to how you have been thinking about your class schedule for the last 4 years. I'm sure you've heard of the platform called Rate My Professor, and there is nothing worse than getting into a class with a professor that you don't understand, they don't teach in the method that you like. Well, I think the worst thing would be getting into a situation where you are working under someone or working for a company that you do not vibe well with, or you do not work in that same way. So think of your interviews as a two-way street. You are interviewing employers just as much as they are interviewing you, and you do want to be confident when you are signing that offer letter, making your final decision. So please keep that in mind as well. The last question that I got is tips for a virtual interview. First thing that came to mind for me was dressing the part. While you're conducting this interview from home and you may want to wear jeans and a t-shirt, think as if you were going into that employer's office. You'd probably be wearing some sort of suit or professional attire, so you want to ensure that you are dressing similarly to that for a virtual interview. The next thing that I would recommend is to prepare the environment that you're interviewing in. Look behind me. Pretty blank space, not a lot of background noise. That's the type of setup that you would want for a final round interview, as it can be a big distraction for an employer to have to look at a busy background or hear some background noise, so avoid that as much as possible. You want to be yourself during these interviews as well. It will feel weird talking to a camera for a virtual interview, but you want to ensure that your body language, your tone, and your volume are similar to what they would be as if this conversation was in person. Technology. You want to ensure that your technology is working properly for the interview. I always recommend checking it the night before, but then logging in 20 to 30 minutes prior to that interview to ensure that everything's working and functioning properly. The last thing you want to have to do is reach out to an employer at the time of the interview or even a few minutes after it's supposed to start, letting them know that you're having issues getting logged in, as that does show an employer that you are unprepared for the interview. The last thing with technology would be to ensure that it's charged, whether you charge it the night before or you're plugging it in during the time of the interview. You just want to ensure that that piece of technology is not going to die out on you during the interview so that you complete that conversation in its entirety. That is all the tips that I do have for you guys here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do not hesitate to reach out if there is anything I can help you with, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks so much.